It is Saturday, April 18th, 2009, and I am here in the office of our athletic director, Mike Holder, with Tim Greene, who is a member of the class of the 1959 National Championship Baseball Team, and this is Jennifer Paustenbaugh with the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program. And Mr. Greene, thank you so much for joining us today for this interview. We really appreciate your participation. I wanted to ask you a series of questions, and the first is, you and your teammates are here today for a special 50-year reunion celebrating that championship season. How special is this reunion for you?
Extremely special. I spent my professional career as an athletic director at East Central University in Ada. I was their athletic director for 25 years, was at the university for 35, and as a professor and an administrator. And I learned down there how hard it was to win a national championship. Fortunately, while I was athletics director, we did win one national championship in football down there. And we went to the finals one year at Kemper in Kansas City in basketball. Got beat 3 points. So I know how hard it is to win. At the time, I didn't probably appreciate it as much as I have learned to appreciate it. But it's, of course, with the kind of reputation that the Cowboys have in baseball and have to only won it one time, you can see how fortunate we were. Two things that you'll hear from me and from the other players as well. You got to be good and you got to be lucky, and we were both.
Well, and I want to get a little bit later on. I want to talk to you about that 1958 season where you were good but not lucky. But
yeah,
you make a really good point there. You have to be both. Were there some guys on the team that you were especially close to, and have you been able to meet up with them here today?
Oh yeah. Well, Ben Bancroft, I played right field, and Ben played center field, so we have quite a rapport. As players we did, and we've maintained a friendship through the years. And then, of course, some of the other guys, but I just have not had as much contact with them as I've had with Ben.
Now, is this the first time that you all have had a reunion? Or?
No, we had one about maybe 25 years ago over at Wes Watkins' facility over there, which was very, very nice. It was a sit-down dinner occasion, and that's when they inducted us into the Hall of Fame to put our pictures down there.
Okay.
And that was a delightful evening.
I bet it was. I wanted to ask you some questions about your team and the championship year, obviously, but can you tell me about where you grew up and your family and your early life?
I went to high school at Asher, and Asher, I don't know if you know much about high school baseball, but for several years Asher was had quite a reputation as a powerhouse high school program. Actually, all of that happened a year or two after I got out of high school. In fact, the coach at Asher High School, a guy named Merle Bowen, was 1 year ahead of me in high school. And he came back to his alma mater and coached, and has had a tremendous successful career there. So I made All-State my senior year in baseball as a third baseman, which I thought was my best position. And I was recruited by several universities out of high school, but I wanted to come to Stillwater. Could have gone to OU. But I chose to come up here, and just delighted that I did.
So, I mean, what helped make that decision that Stillwater was where you wanted to be?
Oh, just I'd played several summers over at Cushing. At that time, Cushing had 2 oil refineries, and they were good summer jobs, and they recruited a lot of our ball players to play on their summer sandlot team and give us good summer job. So a lot of it had to do with the guys that I'd made acquaintances with during the summer. My first year to play over at Cushing was between my junior and senior year in high school. And I played over there for actually about 5 summers in a row.
Okay. So even while you were in college, then you were able to play there?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
and play with a lot of the guys that I continued to play with over here. There were probably 7 or 8 of us that played over there in the summertime.
Okay. That sounds like something the NCAA wouldn't allow to happen anymore.
Well, they might not.
So what year did you enroll and what was your major here?
I majored in business administration and worked in industry for about 4 years. And then I went back to school and got another baccalaureate degree and a master's degree in education, and then got a doctorate from the University of Oklahoma and got into higher ed and professed and really enjoyed that part of my life.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I think I missed the year that you enrolled here.
I was here as an athlete, 57 to 59.
Okay.
Of course, freshmen couldn't play, and I didn't play my sophomore year. Actually, I went a year and a half to East Central because even though Coach Greene had recruited me, he had some guys coming back from the Korean War. And Mr. Iva told him, he said, you got to take these guys back. But Coach Greene told me, he said, and I don't know whether you'll put this in print or not, but he said some of these guys have been and they don't know how to be students when they come back, and they're not going to stay very long until they flunk out. And that's exactly what happened. And he said as soon as that happens, then I'll be able to pick you up to a full scholarship. When I first came, I was actually not eligible because I had lettered that freshman year down at East Central in baseball. And so I was just on a partial. And then my last 2 years I was on full scholarship.
So do you remember your first visit to the OSU campus?
Yeah, I really do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was your impression of
Oh, just actually I caught a ride up here, and I was a little late coming into Coach Greene's office, and I had made an appointment. And when I came in, he said, Tim, you're a little late. And I said, well, I know I am, Coach. I said, I had a little trouble catching a ride. And I never heard another word about it because he recognized that if that's the way I got there, you know, that I really wanted to be there.
Right.
And he knew when to get on you at the right time and when to get off at the right time.
I've heard that before.
I had a lot of respect for Coach Greene.
Did you have some favorite hangouts on campus?
Well, the Alpha Delta Pi House.
Where you met your
Where I
wife.
met that lady, yeah. She's from Ponca City, and I'm from Asher, which is different parts of the state. And we met here.
Okay.
And yeah, that got to be my favorite hangout.
Okay. Well, and at this point in our recording, I should probably note, since they're not on camera, that Mr. Greene's wife, Paula Kay Greene, is here, and also your daughter, Kelly,
Kelly.
is listening in on the interview, and we're glad to have both of them here. So before we talk about the 59 season, tell me a little bit about the 58 season. That was kind of a heartbreaker, wasn't it?
Well, it was. And we had a lot of unfortunate things happen. There was some critical rainouts, probably some ball games we could have won. And then the ones that didn't rain out were the teams that were hard to beat. So it was just, that's part of being lucky, like I told you a while ago. We had, of course, Baseball is about as good as your pitching. And the ball club that we won the national championship with, Joe Horland and Roy Peterson and Dick Sorgel were three good pitchers, and they could stop anybody. And they started about every ball game. And so we never did have to. We could play good defense, and we had a pretty fair offensive ball club, but we never did have to score very many runs to beat anybody because they weren't going to get very many runs off of us. So I attribute a lot of our success to those three guys.
So tell me what you remember about Coach Toby Greene, and I'm assuming that there was no relationship between the two.
No relationship. Coach Greene didn't know how to spell green. He put a knee on the end of his name.
Okay, that's right. I noticed that now.
Well, Coach Greene was he was a taskmaster. This is a rather unique. When I was a player, and of course I think the other players will document this, there was not a lot of chit-chat exchange between Coach Greene and players. It was just, this is what you do, and you do it, and you speak to him when he speaks to you, that sort of thing. There's no question about the pecking order. After I graduated, I was in Stillwater for business, and I thought, well, I'll just go by Coach Greene's office and tell him hi. And I didn't expect any more conversation out of him then than I would have gotten back when I was playing. Totally different situation. He acted like I was his son. We just talked, and Ms. Greene came in and gave me a hug. I just couldn't believe it, but our relationship had changed. I'm no longer a player now. Mm-hmm. I'm an adult, and he just talked to me altogether differently, and how much he appreciated me as a player, and being maybe the right kind of guy,
So did you continue to maintain contact with him?
Somewhat, yeah. I had kind of a unique situation happen one time. We went down early on and saw how they've fixed up downstairs where the weight facility is. Mm-hmm. And when I was here, that was dirt floor, terrible. We were down there, and of course the track guys were there, the pole vaulters, and we were in there hitting. We had a hitting net and a lot of activity, and that dirt. When you'd come out of there and cough and spit, it looked like you had something wrong with your pulmonary system because it was red from sucking in all that dust. And it was my turn in the batting cage, and this guy doing batting practice hit me 3 times. And when I came out of the batting cage, I said some tacky words. And I've heard Coach Greene say some tacky words, and I've heard some of my fellow players say tacky words, and nobody said anything. Profanity is what it was. Mm-hmm. And he had not said anything to any of them, but he jumped right in my face. I hadn't hardly cleared the batting cage, and he got right in my face, and he said, "Greene, I don't ever want to hear that kind of language out of you again." He said, "If I do, you're through." And of course, I didn't say a word. I just went on with the day's activities. Well, we all left and went up to shower, and I turned around, went back down, and he was there by himself, going around picking up balls that he found that had failed to been picked up by the helper. And so there's just the two of us down there. And I went up to him and I said, "Coach, I was really feeling sorry about what I'd said." and I was disappointed. And I said, Coach, I'm sorry about saying those nasty words. And he said, I'm sorry too, Timmy. He said, I thought you were a good Christian boy. And that's been 50 years ago. I've never forgotten that. Even though he wasn't particularly inclined in that direction, or didn't seem to be, he did appreciate in other people. So he taught me a good lesson.
So you've talked a little bit about what it was like to work out under Gallagher Hall, and how sort of primitive those conditions were. What do you recall about the baseball facilities themselves in the pre-Allie Reynolds Stadium era?
Well, it was a pretty nice place to play back then, the same place. Mm-hmm. It's nicer now, of course, larger, but I didn't have any complaints about where we played. Most of the places where we played, our facility back then was as nice as anybody's.
And you told me that you were a right fielder. Is that the only position that you played on the baseball
Played
team?
some, my junior year I played some third base.
Okay.
But he moved me to the outfield.
All right. So what was your batting average?
Oh, I hit around 300.
Okay. Well, I've heard lots of, funny comments about people that they can't remember lots of other, that were ball players. They can't remember lots of other numbers, but they always remember what their batting average was.
And it always gets enhanced a little as we get a little older.
Like fish stories, right?
That's right.
So what was travel to away games like at that time?
We traveled in cars. He let the more responsible, in his estimation, players that had pretty nice cars do the driving. So we divided up into different cars.
Okay.
There's an interesting thing. Of course, Dick Sorrell, Dick lettered in 9 sports. Well, actually 3 sports, but he lettered 3 years in baseball and football and basketball, and was a real asset. We'd win to, I believe, Peoria, played Bradley, and we'd spent the night in St. Louis coming home, and we did some car switching, and I'm not sure why. It probably had to do with somebody that was riding with one bunch didn't want to do some night activity, and someone else did. So they said, well, I'll go with them because they're going to get up late but anyway, through all the switches, Dick got left. We get back to Stillwater, and I think we're maybe the last car, and he's out here waiting. He says, is Sorrell with you all? And we said, no, he's not in this car. And he said, well, we've left him in Stillwater. In St. Louis. And we did, and they had to fly Dick in from St. Louis.
So did you ever fly for any of your games, or was
no,
we
didn't fly anywhere.
So at the start of the 59 season, what were the expectations for the team? Well,
I'd say win it. We thought we had a good ball club. We knew we had good pitching, and we knew we had been good for a couple of years prior to that. And circumstances were such that the advantages had just not fallen our way. And we knew that if they did, we could be in the hunt. Mm-hmm. And we were.
So you knew you were good, then you just needed to be lucky too.
Yes,
right?
That's right.
Well, you had already mentioned that pitching was really one of the strengths of the team, and that you could, turn the hitting on when you needed to. Is there anything else that was particularly noteworthy about this team?
Well, we had a number of good players. I don't know of anybody. I don't know of any position that I didn't have confidence in. Everybody played really, really well. There's a guy who's found out today is deceased. A guy named Jason Mersch played first base. The best glove I've ever seen at any level, and I'm talking about the major leagues. Grayson didn't hit well enough, but I'm telling you, he was a vacuum cleaner over there on first base. And the Andrew boys were Stillwater boys, Bruce and Bob. One of them was second baseman, and the other one was a shortstop. They were different. Bruce was about 10% talent and 90% hustle, and Bob was about 90% talent and 10% hustle. They were just the opposite. Bob was older. He had been to the service and come back. Great player. Could have been an outstanding player had he had the same zeal for the game that his little brother did. But his little brother was a gamer because he played so hard. And Jim Dobson, our third baseman, who really was recruited as a football player, was the MVP of the national tournament, and he just played lights out up at Omaha.
So Bruce was the younger?
Yeah.
Okay, because
Bruce was the second baseman.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm looking at an article from June of 1959 that was in the Oklahoman about this win, and they called him Little Bruce Andrew.
Yeah.
So he was also shorter in stature. And
shorter and shorter in stature, yeah. In fact, Bob was, they have a standard size of an honor guard that presents the colors in Washington, and he just fit the mold for that. He's about 6 feet tall and well built, nice looking, and he was just he just had a lot of stuff going his way. His desire had waned somewhere along the way. We had a really good catcher, a young man named Ray Bond, and then of course Tim Smalley, who was the local MD, was a catcher also. We did have we played Arizona twice. That's who we beat in the finals, and they beat us the first game, if I'm not mistaken, 5-3, and then we turned around and beat them 5-3. And we had a relief pitcher, a young man named Toby Bensinger, that started the finals game and pitched about 5 innings of really good baseball. First game he'd started all year. And then Dick came back in and finished the ball game for about the last 3 innings. Dick's the guy that Arizona had beaten the first game.
And that was
now
his
Dick
only
had a
loss,
real.
wasn't it?
Beg pardon?
That was his only loss that season.
Yeah, I think so. But Dick had such a resolve and such a competitive nature. He kept telling Toby, he said, "You get one more inning out of yourself, and I'll guarantee I'll shut the door on them." And he did.
So was there any game that was really a turning point in that season, or?
Well, having to come back through the losers bracket, 3 of us had lost 1 game. I think it was Fresno State and Arizona and us, and we did a coin flip because somebody got a bye. Well, we lost. Arizona won it, and so we had to beat Fresno State in order to get to play Arizona. So we had to play 1 more ball game than they did, and they had a day to rest and save their pitching. So they were ready with everybody for us for the finals, and had somewhat of an advantage. But that I would say laboring under a handicap environment, we did all right.
Yeah, I would say so. What about the regular season? I mean, that was pretty good, except for, I think, was it Iowa State that swept you in a series that season, but you pretty much took care of everybody else?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was Iowa State or not. Back then, actually, the team that was in the Big Eight that was the one that challenged on a fairly regular basis was Missouri. But several of them were pretty good.
I thought one thing that was really interesting is that I didn't realize that the number of games that you played at that particular point in time.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know when it changed, but now it seems like they play 60, 65 games. And
our entire season, Coach Anderson and these guys will play that many ball games in a month.
Yeah.
You're right. But we had rainouts and things, and you didn't have field covers and so forth like you have now.
Right. So
And
when
a lot
you
of
were
that's-
rained out, you were really stuck, weren't
Yeah.
you?
Mm. And a lot of it's mandated by conference offices now. You have to cover your field and so forth. And back then, if there's somebody that you didn't want to play, you might not cover your field. And if there's somebody you wanted to play, you would cover it. So they've tightened some things up.
Okay. So I imagine in that 58 season when you had those 3 rainouts that it was maybe a case of a team that really didn't want to play Oklahoma
Could
State.
Could be, yeah.
Was there a game during the regular season of the 59 season that was really memorable for you?
Well, we beat the Sooners down at Stillwater. Down at Norman, like that. It was.
That's always good, isn't
Yeah.
it? Some things sort of never change with time.
Yeah.
So was the College World Series the same kind of big deal then as
Oh,
it is
yeah,
now?
it really was. Back then it was the Big Eight, and Nebraska, of course, was in the Big Eight. And we were the people's choice at Omaha because Nebraska didn't go, and the Omaha crowd was for us because we were the Big Eight representative. And they were exceptionally nice to us. I don't know, Jerry will probably hear about this, but we were playing Nebraska up there, and they had a pitcher, a guy that was older who had been in the service and had come back and was pitching for them and doing one heck of a job. And it was about the 5th inning, and they had us down about 5-3. And we were batting, and he threw the ball to one of our players, and he nubbed it over into our dugout. And Ray Bond, our catcher, was sitting on the edge of the dugout, and he just caught the little nubber. And I'm telling you, this was an honest mistake, but it just happened simultaneously. This pitcher from Nebraska comes walking off the mound right towards Ray, towards our dugout, with his hand out to get the ball that Ray's going to throw to him. So Ray picks the ball up and throws it, and almost at the same moment, the home plate umpire hollered ball in, and that pitcher turned to get to feel the ball from the catcher, and that ball hit that Omaha pitcher, or that Nebraska pitcher, right. It's funny, but it wasn't funny at the time. And the side of the head knocked him colder than a wedge. And he was on us. So we saw the Nebraska coach coming over there, coming to our dugout. And Coach Greene said, don't you guys say a word. Keep your mouth shut. He came over there and just walked up and down in front of our dugout. And you talk about reading us the right act. You bunch of bush leaguers, you know, because we had finished his pitcher for the day. Well, he has to come in with a release pitcher, and we get all over him and win the ball game. But it was absolutely an honest mistake. We didn't intend that at all, and it was that pitcher's fault as much as anybody's, because he was holding out his glove to receive the ball. Something else in the championship game that I saw, and I think some of the other guys did, after we won, we were, of course, hopping around out on the field. We didn't do any of that piling on like they do now, but we were high-fiving and all that stuff. Byron Bird, who was the trainer, went over and grabbed Coach Greene, and Coach Greene's about my size. And in dugouts, you know, they're concrete, and the ceilings are not very tall. Bird, Coach Bird, the trainer, grabbed Coach Greene by the waist and hoisted him up into the top of that concrete dugout. And just, I mean, I guess when he came out of the dugout, he was 2 inches shorter. I mean, you talk about pile driving somebody upside down. That was funny. I saw him put Coach Greene down, and he was weaving around. Oh, it was funny. But they were trying to celebrate, and Bird just didn't realize he had given him that much of a boost.
So besides the championship game, are there any other games in the World Series that really stick out in your mind?
Well, the ones we won.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And you know, the interesting thing about that championship game, after we won it, that Nebraska coach who had been so hard on us that ball game when we played up there, he was right down there in the dugout, hooping and hollering, just like the rest of us, you know, congratulating everybody. And when we came up out of the dugout, headed back to the bus, well, the Nebraska fans had just kind of created an alley for us and were really complimenting us. So we had the crowd on our side.
They didn't hold a grudge, huh?
Not one bit. And another thing that happened to me, this happened to me downtown. I was, I think maybe we played that afternoon, or I weren't going to play it till the next day. And I was downtown Omaha and had on street clothes, and I looked down and the zipper on my slacks had broken. And everybody in here knows when you break a zipper how hard it is to get it back in the right slot. Well, I couldn't. I kind of got off in a little alcove there and tried to do the best I could, but I couldn't get it to do anything. And there was a tailor shop right there handy, cleaners. So I walked in there and I showed the cleaners, tailor. I said, I got a problem here. Can you help me out? He said, well, get your britches off. So I did, gave them to him. And he went in there and worked on them for about 30 minutes, came back out and fixed it, and no charge. You know, he asked me what I was doing up there, and I said, well, I'm here from Oklahoma. I'm playing in the College World Series. So, you know, just the whole city was so nice. It was a delightful experience.
That's really good to hear. So how do you think that the 59 era club sort of ranks in comparison to some of the really good teams that like Gary Ward and Frank Anderson have had?
Oh, I think there's parity, but for sure. I think for sure Gary's had ball clubs as good as ours, and probably Coach Anderson has. it just hadn't happened for them. But it will one of these days, as long as you recruit good athletes and the right kind.
So how do you think that, other than the sheer number of games that are played in college baseball now, I mean, do you think there's a lot of differences between college baseball in 2009 and college baseball in 1959?
Well, they play a lot more, as you've already alluded to. So that probably has something to do with their ability to play the game. I'm not sure it's necessarily a positive in regard to academics, because you do have to miss a lot of school. And pretty much in the fall, we were students, you know. We played in the spring. Now they have year-long programs and even sometimes play a limited fall schedule. So I think you got to be concerned about that part of it.
Sure.
Because being a student, it takes a lot of time to be a college athlete. A lot of things that people don't understand about the demands of playing in college. You go to class in the morning. You practice nearly all afternoon. You go eat, and then there's the fatigue factor. And when you're tired and trying to study, they don't necessarily complement one another. So unless you can really discipline yourself, you can have a hard time making decent grades.
Well, I think it's interesting now, and I think it's good, all of the academic support that they have for our
Absolutely.
student athletes. I mean,
Yes.
what kind of services similar to that were available for student athletes in 1959?
We didn't have what they call today graduation coaches per se on staff, but if you were having trouble in a particular class, you could go see the coach, and he would arrange for a student that either had that class or maybe was in the class you were in to do some private mentoring. It wasn't necessarily one-on-one. It'd be maybe three of us in the same class that needed a little special mentoring. And so you had that kind of stuff, because they were interested in you passing, you know. And of course now, if you just weren't going to class, you know, they'd handle that.
Well, I mean, especially since you were an athletics administrator all these years, do you have any sense that student athletes in the day when you played were more interested in being students than, say, they are today, or you don't think that part of it has changed, or?
I don't think so. I think maybe we were a little more interested in the academic part of it, but I don't think there's a marked difference.
Okay. Well, I just, it seems like all little boys want to be a professional football player or baseball or basketball, and I didn't know how prevalent that idea was then, that, I'm coming to be a college baseball player, and my goal is to be a professional baseball player. Whether that mindset was as prevalent then as it is now, or whether people just saw this as something they could do while they were going to school, but not their life's work.
Yeah.
How has the OSU campus changed since you were a student here?
A great deal. I was laughing at my wife because we graduated the same year, but yeah, it's just changed so much. In fact, this is the first time I've seen the new renovation. Mm-hmm. I do buy a couple of old club season tickets every year, but my daughter and her husband take care of that because they have a son that's a student up here. And but I'm just overwhelmed. There's absolutely no comparison It's just gorgeous.
So I understand that you have, I know your daughter's here with us, and did she attend school here at OSU?
She did 1 year.
1 year?
Yeah.
And do you have other children that went to school here or grandchildren?
Well, we have 2 grandchildren
that are
students
currently
here,
students here?
Yeah.
Okay.
her kids.
That's great. So OSU ended up becoming a really big part of your life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they didn't have a lot of choices.
Well, I've asked you quite a few questions, but I'm just wondering if there's anything that you wish that I would have asked you that I didn't, that you want to talk about.
No, I don't think so. I think it's been fairly comprehensive.
Okay. So what's on tap for the rest of the day for you as far as this reunion goes?
Well, we're planning on coming back at 6 to watch a little of the spring football game.
Okay.
And going to spend the night, and then we'll go back to Ada tomorrow.
Good. Well, it sounds like it's been a nice reunion.
It's been nice. It's been a delight. Some of these guys I haven't seen in 50 years, and they look a little different.
I bet they do. It's good you have name tags, right?
And I needed it for some people. I went to my 50th year high school reunion about 3 years ago. And I sat down at this table, and the lady that I did not recognize is about as far as from me as you are. And I sat by a lady who I see fairly frequently. She lives in Tecumseh. And of course, we live in Ada, and those 2 cities are about 50 miles apart. And I would see her occasionally. So I sat by her, and we were visiting. And I spoke to this lady sitting across the table from me. That's all I did was just say, "How are you?" And so the lady next to me, she said, "Well, you know who that is?" And I said, "Well, no, not really." And she told me her name. And it was a young lady that I had had several dates with in high school. And I did not recognize her.
That's pretty funny.
So some of these guys look different, just like I do.
Well, thank you so much for spending this time with me today.
It's been my pleasure. Y'all have done a great job today.
Well, thank you. It's been fun.